Shoot off a flare when you're ready for Torres to bring you home. Now just seal that bunker and stop exposing your team to not so low doses of radiation.
High risk hostile. Radiation detected at acceptable level. Agent down.
When you're ready to come home, shoot off the flare. Hold tight. Helo,
Heavily armored hostile detected. Detected. Location controlled by hostiles.
Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and today I'm coming back at you with another build video, this time designing one around the new talent that got added with the most recent update for the Division 2, Thunderstrike. Now, ever since we saw this pop up in the PTS and the patch notes, I had wanted to make a build for it when the update hit. I thought it would be a lot of fun, and turns out I was right. Like you saw in the gameplay, this allows you to lock down enemies for huge amounts of time with the shock status effect and deal huge amounts of damage to them as well. And so that can work great in solo, but it's even more prevalent in groups when you can allow everybody else to activate their abilities, do their damage. It just works really well, and I assume this will work well for upcoming content, even like the incursion later in year 5, things like that. It has a ton of utility as a support set, but like I said, you can deal a lot of damage yourself, and that was really the balance that I wanted to strike there. So let's just get right into it. And here is the build. So as you can see, and as you saw in the gameplay, this focuses a lot around being able to lock enemies down with your shock ability and unlock that extra damage, but it also has a lot of damage built in so that when you don't have that shock active, because it is a more rare status effect, you can still deal a lot of damage. So let's get into how that works. The star of the show is the new named Cabaret SMG. This was added with the most recent Year 5 Season 1 update, and it brings a new talent to the game of Thunderstrike, which is available on all weapons, but this comes with Perfect Thunderstrike, which deals 40% extra damage to shocked targets. This is where the whole inspiration for the build came in for me. I wanted to make a build around this new talent, and it works really fantastically. So, on here we have damage targets out of cover, not too surprising, of course comes with Perfect Thunderstrike, and we have 2 crit chance mods and a crit damage muzzle there. And you can unlock this gun both on the new Year 5 Season 1 reward track as well as out in the general loot pool if you still need to collect it. For your secondary, I highly recommend the Scorpio. This is obviously a very great gun in and of itself. Before this update, it was still a staple, but since it allows you to shock targets, this is a great additional way to apply the shock status effect when your shock trap is not active. If you hit them with those 6 shots and then you switch back to the Cabaret, you'll still have a good 4 or 5 seconds of a window that you can get that extra 40% damage in, so it works really well on heavies, on hunters, things like that. So I highly recommend Scorpio there, and then the sidearm is totally up to you. Let's quickly take a peek at the overall crit that we are achieving with this build, and you can see it's still a lot for the amount we're still investing into stuff like status effects to make the shock effect last longer. We have 57% crit chance and 147% crit damage here on the Cabaret, and it deals a lot of damage, as you've seen. So let's get into how exactly that is happening. If we start with the mask here, we have one piece of Seska, which gives us the 10% crit chance. That's helping out a lot to get towards that 57% value. On here, we have a full roll of weapon damage, crit damage, status effects rolled, and a crit damage mod. And you'll see It is a recurring theme that we have status effects on as many of these pieces as possible, and again, that is so that the Shock Trap can apply the effect as long as possible on enemies, both when you have it overcharged and when it's not. And we'll get into exactly how that works in just a moment. Moving on to the chest piece, we have our first of 2 pieces of Sokolov, which total is giving us 10% SMG damage and 15% crit damage. On here we have weapon damage, crit damage, status effects, and another crit damage mod with Obliterate. Now, Obliterate is not mandatory. You can go for something with like Unbreakable if you like to. I really like Obliterate because it allows you to build up a lot of damage, especially since we are speccing so heavily into crit in addition to the status stuff that we have. It's just another great outlet to ramp up that damage. And again, because Shock is a more rare status effect, in the downtimes when you can't apply it to an enemy, Obliterate ensures that you can still put targets down even when, like I said, you don't have that extra 40% bonus from Thunderstrike. Moving on to the holster, we have the Picaro's holster. Now this works really well because you're getting bonuses from the brand set bonus of the 10% skill haste. That works great to get your Shock Trap that back even faster. But of course we have the 2 cores as well. We have armor and weapon damage, and we have crit damage rolled on there. And again, that just helps us boost up the overall stats of this build, since we do have to spend some amount investing into skill stuff to get the status effects higher for the Shock Trap to be effective. So the Picaro's works really well in with this whole setup, and I really like how it's functioned. Moving on, we have the named Anarchist Cookbook Backpack, and this again works really well because the status effects you get from the brand set work well into the build because we're building into status to make the shock last longer, and the named talent that we get the perfect version of it of Wicked works in, again, just as well into the overall setup because when we apply a status effect, it increases our total weapon damage by 18% for 27 seconds. So that means whether you're using the Scorpio or the Shock Trap, you're going to get that increased damage as soon as it pops, and that means you just get to amplify that on top of the Thunderstrike bonus, on top of everything else, and it just ensures that you have a ton of damage going out. And on here we have armor, status effects, crit damage, and another crit damage mod. Moving on to the gloves, this is where the real core of the build kind of comes in. We have the exotic BTSU data gloves. Now these, if you don't know what they do, basically when you detonate a hive, it gives you overcharge on your skills, which is the equivalent to skill tier 7. And on a lot of skills, the trap included, it gives you kind of exclusive benefits that you wouldn't get when it's not overcharged. I brought us out here so I could demonstrate this better. The base version of the trap that we have when it's not overcharged at 1 skill tier is that there are 8 traps with a shock duration of 4.9 seconds. So now let's drop the hive down, and again we're going to activate the overcharge with the BTSU data gloves, and we'll take a look at the stats again, and you'll see why this is just so powerful. So now we have the overcharge, you'll see the blue icon there, the things on the backpack, and if we look, now we have 18 traps at a 13.3 second duration, and that's what you saw in those clips, and that's why this is so potent, is because you can lock a whole room of enemies down, a new spawn wave at a control point, the people coming in at the extraction and countdown. Like, there's just so many uses for why this is great, and whether you're solo or you're with a group, it's going to lock the entire room down for you all to just get huge amounts of damage in. And the amount of statuses that we are rolling does increase the base shock duration for when it's not overcharged, so that's great that you have that option, but specifically when you do overcharge it, the combination of everything is what's making this so powerful. So to switch back, we have one last piece of gear, and that is our second piece of Sokolov on the knee pads, and on here we just have weapon damage, status effects, and crit chance rolled there. We already went over the trap and everything there. The only 2 mods I have on there are 2 duration ones, which don't do all that much, and then we have the Revive Hive. Now you can run any of these hives to get the bonus from the data gloves, right? When you detonate a hive, I think the Reviver is nice because it gives you, obviously, the ability to revive people. Since we do have the 1 skill tier, you get 2 charges, so you can revive a teammate or something and still detonate it afterwards. But obviously, whatever hive is most pertinent to your playstyle, to whatever you want to do, use that. And then lastly, I am using the Survivalist Specialization. I think the big discussion here will be between this and Technician. Either one is completely valid. Whatever you think is going to get you more benefit, you should use that. Obviously, with Technician, you get the extra skill tier, which would help make the trap a bit more powerful when it's not overcharged, because you'll get tier 2, which would give you an additional 2 traps, a bit more shock radius and duration. However, the armor kit from Technician is all but useless, and Survivalist is really nice if you are going to use this in some more group content, specifically, Countdown. If you hit them with a status effect, an enemy that is, then they will take extra damage, so when you shock an enemy, not only are you getting more damage from Thunderstrike, but everyone else will as well. You get more skill haste and cover, you get stuff like the armor kit, which is a lot better than the Technician one, and again, it applies to your entire group, so that's another group bonus. You get the Incendiary Grenade, which helps proc Wicked, and you can do things like that. So I just think Survivalist offers a bit more utility, but again, if you do want that maximum bonus on the shock trap when you're not overcharged, then Technician might be the better route to go, so that's totally up to you. So there you have it, everybody. Very much hope you enjoyed that build. Again, I had a lot of fun making it, wanted to make something around the new talent that dropped, and it was fun to kind of come up with that combination, and I think it was pretty successful because I've had a lot of fun with this setup. So hope you enjoyed the breakdown. If so, a like would be very appreciated on the video, and be sure to click that subscribe button as well as turning on the notification bell so that you can stay up to date with all my latest builds and content. Let me know your thoughts on the build and the breakdown. Is there anything that you would change about it? What do you like about it? Have you tried incorporating the new Thunderstrike talent into any of your own setups? Let me know all of it down below. I'll be very curious to read through it. That is going to do it for me today, though, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. RogueGold. Ow.